Edit. No love for hand tools here. Huh? Apparently, DeWalt is the Mac Daddy. Edit 2. Rest in peace, my notifications. I hope this has been and continues to be a good palate cleanse from all of the dating posts, gentlemen. Title: Hand tools, power tools, specialty. What was your most recent purchase? Do you use your tools professionally or for hobby work? What type of work? Story 1. Hobby and DIY use only. Projects and repairs around the house and cars. Every once in a while, I build or restore some furniture. Battery power tools? Ryobi. It was the first one I bought when I got my own place, and while I would probably go with DeWalt if I were starting over, I've always had the batteries for them around, so it didn't make sense to rebrand. My corded ones are mostly Makita or DeWalt. Hand tools? Utter chaos. It's a mix of hand-me-downs, garage sale finds, and some specialist stuff I got from Harbor Freight or Amazon because I only needed it once or twice. Story 2. Been a professional mechanic for about 20 years. I've collectively spent just over $150,000 on tools and tool storage in that time. This is just from my experience. Milwaukee for electrical tools. They have stood by their products over the years with minimal pushback, even when my serial numbers have faded. Hand tools vary. For me, I've just followed these few rules. Lifetime warranty. Ease of replacement as all tools break. Quality of customer service. Return on investment greater than 200%, such as will this $100 specialty ratchet make me at least $300? Story 3. Don't buy brands, buy tools. 80% of the products at Harbor Freight are good enough unless you are a professional using them every day or are particularly hard on tools. I'm invested in the Milwaukee battery system, and all the tools I have through that system are great. That's not to say I need anything that expensive to get the job done. Story 4. Bosch Professional and Makita. Some Bosch do-it-yourself tools too. I did buy a DeWalt drill once, could drill a 6mm hole with a 4mm drill. Spindle run out of several millimeters. Story 5. I would get Hilti if I could afford it. Makita for power tools since they're less likely to get stolen from a job site. Milwaukee makes some pretty good hand tools. Story 6. Going to get hate for this. I've been using Ryobi tools for 25 years. I bought into it with a kit in 1999 and the battery format has never changed. I'm a do-it-yourself furniture builder and homeowner, and they have served me very well in that role. I've never had a tool fail on me in that time. Story 7. Home automotive Wera. I've beat my tools up a lot. Spent about $1,500 8 years ago and have torn down multiple bikes and car work with my tools. I still had to buy some special stuff like breaker bars and torque wrenches, but Wera hasn't let me down. Story 8. I buy Ryobi for power tools. As someone who just does repairs and home improvement around the house, I don't really need anything bigger. They haven't disappointed me in the slightest. For hand tools, I use DeWalt, but that's less about brand loyalty and more because I wanted a more rounded out ratchet set, didn't have any monkey wrenches, and there was a 200-piece set on sale, so I just bought it and got rid of my older tools. Story 9. Milwaukee. Tired of DeWalt and Ryobi batteries dying, and their formats changing, I standardized on the Milwaukee M18 batteries and I am not looking back. I also like the Milwaukee packout system and replaced my metal toolboxes with the packout system. Story 10. Buy Harbor Freight first for anything you won't use often. If you use the tool enough to break it or truly understand its limitations and why it's not possible to overcome them with skill, knowledge, or adjustments, then throw money at the problem. Note, this not only gives you tools to lend but protects you from having tools stolen since they don't have resale value. Don't let batteries lock you into a brand. You can adapt batteries between brands. Name brand batteries do make sense, though. I don't know of a reliable third-party battery brand. You can get some crazy deals on direct tools outlet, especially on factory blemish and tool-only, no battery, kits. The price of Ryobi tools is kept artificially cheap relative to quality thanks to power tool fanboys and brand boys. Mark all your tools in a way that can't be removed with your email address. If you aren't a selfish person, it's easy to lose track of lendouts, but more importantly, lots of people will return lost or stolen tools if they have the option. TLDR. Tools are means to an end, not an identity. Derive your pride and sense of self from the things you make and the things you do, not the brand you give money to, which often has the same parent company and uses the same factory as the brands you hate. Story 11. Cliché, buy it at Harbor Freight first. But after that, power tools, Makita, wrenches and sockets, Snap-on, hammer, Estwing, multimeter, Fluke, miscellaneous electrical, Klein, pliers, channel lock, precision screwdrivers, Wiha, generator, Honda, soldering, Hoku. Story 12. Wera, Conopex, and Wiha for most hand tools, with exceptions for particularly specific tools that I can't get elsewhere. The German manufacturers seem to be constantly innovating tools, and the quality is pretty impressive. The quality is just as good or better than most United States tool manufacturers. The only downside is the lack of a lifetime warranty, but if the tools are high quality, I don't need it to begin with. I started using Makita for power tools as I got a deal on the hammer drill and impact driver set. DeWalt and Milwaukee are solid choices as well. The three brands are rugged but also smooth operating at the same time. For precision measuring, I usually go to Mitutoyo or Starrett, but I would certainly accept some higher grade stuff. It's just usually way out of my budget. Their quality and price point intersect at the right place for me. The last tool I bought was a pair, a 1:4 ratio ratcheting screwdriver handle and a ratcheting T-handle, both Wera brand, to accept their screwdriver blades. I use my tools professionally in industrial maintenance. An old technician where I first started told me one day, "You can do this trade cheaply with Harbor Freight, but you'll learn your hands are worth more than saving $20 on a wrench." That resonated with me pretty strongly, so I've spent the extra and injured myself far less than some of my coworkers. Also, fewer trips to replace tools. Story 13. I'm just going to throw this in, and I know I'll get downvoted. The WORX leaf blower and vacuum is the best tool I've ever used. It blows, vacuums, and mulches and has taken 12 years of abuse and keeps on going. I told my kids I'm going to be buried with it. Power tools? DeWalt. No brainer. Story 14. Conopex for pliers and side cutters. Stahlwill for wrenches and ratchets. Power tools are harder to answer, but somewhere between Bosch Professional, Fine, Hilti, and Makita. Story 15. Don't fall in love with a brand. I have a lot of Bosch, but they sold to over-the-counter, so it's just more Chinese trash now. Now I've got battery adapters. It's rather annoying. Story 16. Man, I won't even lie. I bought a cheap impact drill from Harbor Freight. Turned out to be pretty good. I've used it more than a few times, so it paid for itself. But typically, I don't like store brand anything. Story 17. Power tools I have are a split between Hitachi and Milwaukee. Mostly mechanical work with some home DIY. Some things are Ozito because I just don't need anything more fancy for how often I'll use it. Hand tools such as spanners, sockets, and pliers are probably Kingchrome and Sitchrome, but I've actually got a bit of everything. For the rest, I truly don't care about painting gear, saws, squares, bits, blades, sanders, etc. It really does not matter. Story 18. Ryobi because I like the color and they're budget-friendly, considering my limited need to use tools. And I always just assume the amount of criticism they receive on social media is primarily from Dodge Ram drivers and their, if it's not American, it's sissy liberal rubbish attitude. Also, I bordered dangerously close to being a fan of Japanese pop culture in my youth, and some habits are hard to shake. Story 19. Husky, Snap-on, and Craftsman are decent when I have money. But if I need something to keep in the car, it's just a tool pack from Walmart or Harbor Freight. It's a convenient way to have what you need in case of emergencies. Story 20. Metabo is my go-to. When I was first starting out, I found a drill, an impact driver, and a cordless circular saw all pretty cheap at a pawn shop, so I bought them. They still haven't failed me years later, so I just keep buying the same brand when I buy new tools. I do buy some low-quality Harbor Freight tools for things I don't use very often, though. Story 21. All my power tools are the green devil known as Ryobi. I'm not a tradesman, nor do I really do any heavy-duty projects that would require something like Milwaukee or DeWalt. I mostly do just weekend warrior projects. The Milwaukee pack-out boxes are incredible, though, so I do have those. My most recent purchase was a Ryobi plunge saw. I like my screwdrivers fancy, so those are Wera. Everything else I pick up at Harbor Freight. Story 22. All my cordless tools are Porter cable because they were inexpensive. I don't really have a preferred brand for everything else. I tend to prefer something large and heavy with some use on it compared to the plastic products they make now. Story 23. DeWalt. I have a hammer drill and impact driver set for work that's over 10 years old and still going strong. I also bought into the DeWalt system for home and personal use and have no regrets. The most recent purchase was a blower, but I also picked up a nice 1/2 inch compact impact on a Black Friday deal last year. It's great for taking wheels off when you don't need the full power from a high-torque tool. It also fits into a lot of spaces where the high-torque motor housing won't. As far as hand tools go, I have a Husky screwdriver set I bought for work years ago that's withstood plenty of abuse. Story 24. I like hand tools that are so well worn you can't tell what the brand was. They won't win any speed contests, but they're so smooth and fun to use. I use them mostly for hobby work. I make wood bows, so I've always got my draw knife, hatchet, and an array of chisels. Story 25. Hobby woodworker. Harbor Freight until it breaks. Then buy DeWalt or Jet or Grizzly. I have a Grizzly table saw and dust collector. Hand tools are my obsession, though. Obviously, Stanley or Stanley Bailey for planes and general antiques. Diston or Buck Brothers for saws. Story 26. Milwaukee and DeWalt XR. The XR batteries are amazing at holding charge. I got one out of storage after 18 months. It still had 90% charge. My tooling is limited to impact drivers, a circular and reciprocating saw, and a couple of drills. I have never had or tried Ryobi or Makita, although I see quite a few people using Makita. Story 27. Depends on what and where I use it. Hand tools. Buy the cheap hardware store brand and replace parts as they break with expensive stuff. Who needs a 16mm socket that often? However, my professional tools are mostly Facom, Weha, and Wera since I use them daily. Story 28. I am a retired plumber. I started out with DeWalt. When they started to die, I moved to Makita. Those fit my small hands better. After they died, I went to Ryobi and used them until I retired. For being inexpensive, they have been a great tool. The first thing I did was disable some of the safety switches because they were a pain in the butt. Story 29. D-Way Tools. This is the best M2 steel available for working on a wood lathe. The steel is easy to sharpen and holds the edge well. It also lasts longer, so the upfront price is worth it over time. I like the Powermatic line of wood lathes. They are solid, limit vibrations, and the motors have good power and longevity. If there is an issue, they are designed to be easily fixed. A 10-year-old Powermatic will outperform a new machine of the same price. Vicmark is my go-to for lathe chucks and wood-holding tools. They are easy to maintain and well-balanced. I know others will recommend brands of battery-powered tools for the do-it-yourself people and carpenters. That is okay with me. Still, chainsaws have served me well. I can do my own maintenance and adjustments effectively. Oregon brand is my go-to for safety gear. Stealth Shield for respirators. Story 30. I bought my first drill set when I found it at a pawn shop. Makita drill and impact driver with charger and 2 batteries for $60. It was a steal. Since then, I just keep getting Makita to maintain the same ecosystem, and it's been a very good system. I'm super happy with it. I also have some Konopec stuff that rocks. Their pliers wrench is an amazing tool. I have a Wera screwdriver I like. I've got their Allen key set on my list. Tsunoda, also known as King Total Tool Company, is also awesome. Great pliers. Story 31. I have a nice set of Ryobi tools because they make Ryobi everything. I also use Harbor Freight for more sophisticated stuff because I don't use them often enough. Story 32. 4 cordless tools. I have settled on Ryobi. Back when the batteries for my DeWalt drill needed to be replaced again, I found I could get a starter kit of Ryobi tools with a drill, impact driver, and flashlight for less than a pair of new DeWalt batteries. So I switched to get the impact driver. I have since been expanding my collection of their tools. They are more than good enough for my purposes, and they have an ever-growing collection of tools that use the same battery. They are also frequently on sale. Hand tools are a mix of things I've acquired over the years. Many of them are Craftsman from back when that was a premier hand tool brand. For tools I need for a single project, I will usually get them at Harbor Freight. They will work well enough for the project, and if I end up using them enough that the lower quality becomes an issue, then I can upgrade to a better brand. My first oscillating multi-tool was $12 from Harbor Freight. I used it a couple of times. It works well but is loud as hell, so I replaced it with a cordless one from Ryobi. Story 33, Harbor Freight. I buy what I need for projects, so I might use a tool heavily for a while but not long-term. I like Ryobi, DeWalt, Skill, Craftsman, and Dad's toolbox he left me when he died. I do not buy Black & Decker. Nope, not going to happen. Story 34. Depends on the work to be performed. Power hand tools, I currently carry DeWalt. My set is at least 10 years old and still works like new. I would own Milwaukee if I were buying new today. Screwdrivers, Network Tools, Klein and Fluke. Greatest combination wrenches ever made, Wera Joker series. Old school Craftsman was where it was at. These days, I would buy Fisher-Price before I spend a penny on Craftsman. Lawn care steel all day long. Story 35. Knipex and Wera tools are my guilty pleasures. Power tools. I started out with Makita, wasn't impressed, bought into Milwaukee, and have been very happy with them ever since. Story 36. I'm an automation engineer and travel with my tools. I've got a 1/4 inch Wera Flex head driver with a bit adapter, and every time I bust that bad boy out on site, everyone says they need to get one. I also really like my little Klein 4-in-1 terminal driver. Story 37. Lots of people are discussing power tools, and I have nothing to add to that topic that hasn't already been said. Instead, hand tools. Wera and Wiha are my go-to choices. Wera for all things related to wrenches. Sockets, ratchets, Allen keys, spanners, torque tools. You name the wrench, I'm going to look for the Wera version first. Their tools fit well, both in the hand and on the fastener. They are not priced outrageously like brands such as Snap-on, and they hold up well to abuse. For all things precision or screwdriver related, I go with Wiha. If one of their screwdrivers doesn't fit the screw head, I always attribute it to the screws being cheap, because it always is cheap screws not being quite up to spec. For hammers, my grandpa's hammer works just fine for me,